Hello everyone, welcome back to Kirkley's Guitar School. So a really common complaint amongst guitarists in the first sort of 12 months that playing, particularly acoustic guitarists, is how do I change between my chords faster and how can I speed that whole process up? Am I doing it correctly? So on and so forth. So I've prepared 9 tips, bit of a different format of a video to what we normally do, but hopefully some of them will help you along in your guitar playing journey. So stick around to the end because I've saved a couple of good ones for the end. So the first one is to pick a handful of chords and work on those exclusively for a couple of weeks and see if you feel like you're getting any better at them. So pick a song, pick a sort of fairly straightforward 4-chord strumming song, Brown Eyed Girl, Zombie by the Cranberries, Sweet Home Alabama, something like that. And just focus on those 3 or 4 chords. Make sure they are what I deem to be proper cowboy chords, G, C, D, E minor, A minor, F major 7, those kind of things. Don't get into the sort of like sus chords or like a horse with no name because it's really easy because it's got 2 chords. Don't go down that rabbit hole, that sets a precedent for the rest of your learning. Pick something that you really want to learn with some achievable chords and just zone in on those 4. Rather than going to the guitar shop and buying a book with 1,000 guitar chords you need to memorise, my philosophy is learn half a dozen shapes and then learn how to manipulate those to get what you want. So I think that's really important to remember because I can't remember 1,000 chords, but I can remember 12 and a little bit of theory to navigate it, and that's my teaching style, and I sort of endeavour to look at some more of that in my lessons here on YouTube. So pick a handful of chords and just stick to those, but do it for a significant amount of time. And then tying into it, my second one's little and often. So if you, let's assume you have 30 minutes to practice 4 times a week. You should save 10 minutes of those 30 to exclusively putting your chords in the right place because that's where you're going to get the most progress from as an acoustic guitar player. I mean, it works for an electric guitar as well, but I'm assuming most of you with this problem playing acoustic guitar. So, little and often, 5 minutes at the beginning, 5 minutes at the end of your practice routine. Do some exercises, rattle through your chords, but really focus on the quality of the chords and making sure you get what you need. And that ties into number 3, which is, Justin Guitar calls it 1-minute changes and perfect changes. I call it quality and quantity. Okay, now, quality is pick 2 chords. We'll go for a C and a G. We're not focused on the speed for this exercise. How do those chords sound? Pick each note one at a time. Move to a G. Are all the strings ringing out? Is it making a nice noise? You're not getting any dead notes anywhere. This is the time to address those. So that's what I'd call quality. Good quality chords. Now for quantity, take your phone, your laptop, whatever, egg timer would work. Set a timer somehow for a minute and see how many times you can change between those 2 chords in a minute and make a log of it. So I'd set the timer for a minute and each chord I'd play, bearing in mind 1 C, 1 G, would be a point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. How many can you get in a minute reasonably? Now what I mean by that is, if it sounds like this, you're doing it wrong. Reasonably means quick enough, you're rushing, but you're still getting 90% of the notes. So that'd be quality practice. And the idea is we practice both of those modes and eventually they'll come together and you'll be able to play chords fast and clean. But it's about a 12-month process. Don't rush it. It will come. Just keep showing up and keep doing it and it will happen. Now, removing a strumming pattern from a song that you're trying to learn is a great way of kind of just taking one element out so that you can focus on what really matters, which in the beginning is what your fretting hand's doing. So if you're playing Brown Eyed Girl with a down, down, up, up, down strumming pattern, practice taking that away and just doing 4 downstrokes to the bar, and that allows you to really focus on what's important. And I think a lot of people try and do too much at once and then get themselves in a tiz, or they might get the part and then they've got to change and it all stops, and they have to start again. Whereas what I'd much rather you do is you practice. To me, that's much better sounding and much more impressive rather than having that great gap in between those two chords. Everybody says, for my next one, everybody says use the tips of your fingers, and they're not wrong, but I want to elaborate on that a little bit, okay? Now, yes, use the tips of your fingers, don't fret. Let me go to my B cam. You know, don't play with your fingers flat to the fretboard. Make sure that you're using the tips of your fingers. But what not a lot of people don't discuss is, I do this in my lessons, I should be able to take a pencil and I should be able to slide it under your palm and it should be able to come out of the other side. There should be, excuse the squeaky chair, there should be a gap in underneath, and I should be able to take my pen and there should be a little bit of a gap, rather than holding the neck like a cricket bat like this. Okay? Now that's really important, because that's 9 out of 10 times if a student's choking the high E string at the bottom, is because they're holding the guitar like a cricket bat. Bring your wrist and your shoulder. You see how my shoulder's raised? Bring your shoulder down and your wrist will follow suit, and your wrist hangs like this. Okay? Avoid leading fingers, but use pivots is my next one. So let's talk about pivots first. So where are we? That's not the right one. There we go, look. Okay. So can you see that A minor and that C chord? They have two fingers in common there, don't they? Which is the index finger on the B and the second finger on the D string. So when you're changing between those chords, I'd argue that you've just got to move your ring finger. Look for patterns like this in your chords. If you've got a guitar on your knee, try it now. You see how you got that C, A minor, C. You see how my index and my middle finger are staying. You could do this with an E minor and a C as well. You see how the middle finger on the second fret of the D string can stay in the same place. Use those as a pivot to almost save you a little bit of time later on. And I think tying into that, I say avoid leading fingers. What I mean by that is I want you to avoid, when we're first learning chords, you will do 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. That's great getting going, and there's going to be an element of that for some time, but the eventual goal is for you to be able to plant that D chord in one go, plant that C chord in one go, because that's what I'm doing when I'm playing. Now, it takes a certain level of proficiency to get to that, but when we're changing between these chords, I want you to practice that as well. Can I play a C chord just from afar? Can I come in like that? Now, that's going to be counterintuitive to another exercise I'm going to talk about in a minute, but rather than, if you've got to go 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3 for every chord, you're not going to get there in time. Aim to sort of have them as a block shape that goes down at once. Something else I like to do with my students is visualise the shapes. Do you know what a D chord looks like? Would you be able to draw a D chord on a piece of paper? Or I've already written a D chord here because this is the second time I've filmed this video, but let's go for A minor, for example. So A minor, I know, has the index finger on the first fret of the B, and then second and third fingers on the second fret of the D and the G. This is a great exercise. You can find these online. Can you sketch out the chord shapes without having a guitar anywhere near? You see what I've done there on the B cam. You know, it doesn't have to be anything impressive. You can even, you know, gone are the days where you sit at the bottom of the stairs with the telephone on hold and you're doodling, but it's a great exercise. If you've just got a minute and a blank piece of paper, it's a really good, different way to kind of make sure that it's gone in. So I'd like to see some of that if possible, and I'm going to start doing that a little bit more with the guys on the KJS roster as well, because I think it's really powerful. Stay close to the fretboard. So what I mean by that, I'll go to my B cam. What I see is if you're changing from a D to a G, can you see how my fingers? Don't get me wrong, I'm not it's not German levels of precision, but I'm not doing this. And I see a lot of people do this. Let's actively try and just pick two chords and work it into your practice for a week and let me know in the comments how you got on with it. But you don't have to completely let everything go and fling your fingers as far back as possible. It sounds like something really basic, but surprisingly a lot of people do it. And practice just lifting up enough. You know, you see a guitar player, you go watch a band, and you watch a great guitar player and it looks like the fingers are barely moving, and that's because they are, yeah? I want you to start thinking about it a little bit more as sort of how can we make that a little bit more streamlined and a little bit more elegant, and this is how you cut everything down to get to a different point where you know in less time, which is the crux of what we're trying to achieve. And then the final one, which is what nobody wants to hear, it's the P word, practice. It's really easy for me on this side of the camera to say, you just need to practice more. And a lot of instructors do say that, but also I feel like there's a negative connotation to that. There's lots of online music tutors who promise the world within a course, and lots of people spend the money and don't get anywhere, and they always come out of that transaction feeling like they're the problem. I'm not putting a blanket term onto online lessons because I'm doing them, but I'm personally on a mission to try and make these as accessible and helpful as possible to everybody, because it's a really difficult medium to learn from, but it's very accessible for everybody. So my job as a teacher is to try and make that fit for you guys. Now, I think that it takes about 12 months. You know, playing guitar is really difficult. And no, you know, you see this online, you will never see from my channel play amazing blues with these 3 notes, and this is really easy. It's a clickbait thing to get you to watch their video, and it's not actually very helpful. The most helpful advice in this video is it's going to take 12 months of you practicing at least 4 times a week with these chords. If you think I've played guitar for 20 years, how many times have I played a D chord? I should be able to do it. Those of you that drive, and those of you particularly on this side of the Atlantic that drive a car with a manual gearbox, when was the last time you wondered where second gear was? It's back from first and then up to third, and you cycle through. That's what I'm trying to get at. It needs to become automatic, and repetition is the only way that you're going to get there. And it doesn't matter how you get there. It's the fact that you're sitting down in your chair and you're doing the work, and that's the uncomfortable conversation that a lot of people don't want to have. They want to solve a problem. They want you to click on the video. These tips are helpful, but the last one is, and it's not what you want to hear, I'm sorry, but just keep showing up, keep doing the work, and it will come. Great things like muscle memory exercises and the 1-minute changes exercise are a great way to kind of track your progress on that. But get comfy, because you're going to be doing it for a while. So on that note, we'll call that for today. Thank you very much for watching the video. A little bit different. Let me know what you're struggling with in the comments below. I try and get back to everybody that I can, but I think it's something in the guitar community that's not talked about, the guitar learning community, that is actually quite difficult. But if you stick with me, and we'll get through it, and this time next year we'll all be millionaires, or whatever they say on Phil's horses. Anyway, I'm rambling. I'll go. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. I'll catch you soon. Cheers.